This is the Brown Duke Gun Show. My name is JP Garcia. This is the official podcast for Sentry Defense Indoor Range in Youngsville, Louisiana. If you're looking for a place to shoot and you're in the Youngsville, Lafayette area, please consider shooting with us at Sentry Defense. We have a lot of great guys, a lot of fun toys to play with, and I think you'll have a great time. If you're not in our area, please look at sentrydef.com and order something from us. I think that'd be great. That would be a great way to support the show. The other way you can support the show is just to like and subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get podcasts, on Spotify, or if you're getting our show on Twitter, YouTube, or any of the other places, Rumble, etc. We're trying to put our content out everywhere. So the biggest thing that you can do for us, like and subscribe, and also share with a friend. Try to grow the channel. Today, I have an interview with a friend of mine from Atlanta who's an instructor out there, Grandmaster level shooter, Andreas Yankopolous. He was gracious enough to agree to do a live stream with me, and so I want to share the live stream content with you on the podcast today. So hope you enjoy. Thank you. So awesome. Go ahead.
So shooting stuff.
Welcome.
I think the last time we really talked in person was when you...
It was the last... Georgia. Right?
Yeah, the last Georgia State match when you and your buddy were here for dinner.
Yes, Sam. Yes. Mm-hmm. Yes. So does Georgia not do the match anymore, or do they do it Hit Factor now?
Yeah, so last year there was no Georgia State match. That the people
I was
who
very upset about
it,
that because...
Yeah, they dropped the ball. And this year there is one, and it's going to be in, so I think it's at 9 South, which is in the Savannah area.
Okay.
Savannah, Georgia. And just because of, I think it's in September or October, and our calendar for those months is just completely jammed up. So not going to be shooting it. Like between vacation, the PSTG Summit, and then having been here for a while, it's like, I'm not going to try to add any more to my calendar.
No, it makes sense. Yeah, no, I have to miss the summit. Actually, I'm pretty bummed about that. My it's a good reason, I guess. My sister-in-law is getting married, so it's like of all the weekends, you picked the PSTG Summit to get. It's like so now it's like the third year or second year or something that I haven't made the summit, but I'm trying to funnel people into it. But we have a few folks here in Louisiana who are members of PSTG, so they're finding a lot of benefit out of it. So it's really good.
Yeah. We haven't started working on who's teaching what and what all's going on. I got a number of different things that I can do depending on how Joel fixes up the schedule, and whether it's going to be like last year they were doing the first day they had a kind of a beginner track and an advanced track for people, where you were with one of two people for the entire day. And then the second and third days was more of a round robin with little 2-hour blocks. And I think the first day was maybe style. Yeah. And then the first day was longer, like 3 or 4 hour blocks, like morning and afternoon, and then or it was just kind of a full 1 day program.
Oh man.
So there were a lot of, I think, I don't know if that's what they're doing again this year. I haven't talked to Joel in a little bit. I'm sure that planning is going to get started here in a while. So, but it's at a new range. Yeah. It's out at Jason Bradley's place. So,
awesome. Yeah. Very good.
I think in Arkansas.
Cool. That's exciting.
Yeah. It's near Bentonville. Yeah.
Yeah, certainly. I know the range, or I know of the range. I mean, it's close to where we are. I mean, it was the most convenient range thus far for me to be. I know, man. It's like of all the times, but hopefully they'll have it next year at the same range so that we can, I can make a trip out there. So
yeah.
Cool.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say, so I get a little background. So I started doing this web show really for our local range, and just as a way of outreach, and also gives me an outlet to kind of try out the digital creation techniques and stuff like that, and get better at those kinds of things. So it's kind of a win-win, right? Because professionally, on the non-shooting side, I wanted to get better at that, just to, have some product offerings in the social space and stuff like that. And this was a great way to talk about something that I'm really into and passionate about. And it kind of doesn't feel like work making these, these podcasts and these videos and doing all this stuff. Right. But also, a lot of our guys locally. So I started a club here about 6 years ago, and most of these guys don't travel. They don't have exposure to, higher level shooters like you and, people who teach and all of that stuff. We have some local heat, which are, some really good guys. But, part of what I wanted to do was outreach to other folks in the shooting community to kind of get insight into, how to get better, what people should be practicing. And I thought that, you could, given that clearly you're GM, you've been around the game for a while. I've seen you teach. I've been part of your modules at PSTG. So I jive with everything that you say. So I think it'd be interesting for, the folks here locally to just understand, what your philosophies are on training, how you train, things people should focus on when they want to get better. Right. I think that'd be a good start.
Yeah. There are a bunch of things we can talk about there. Probably need a couple of shows, but
maybe,
which is fine. I'd say lately what I have been working on has been watching myself. You got to get videos of yourself, and then you got to watch the people carefully who are at a higher level, and you're just looking at the differences and trying to understand what are they doing that you're not. And what I felt, one of the things that was holding me back, or that I was having some trouble with is having a sense of, like, when you watch, I'm kind of lucky because one of the guys I train with regularly is like podiumed at nationals and it's like top 5 at World Shoot. And there's an effortlessness to his shooting. And it doesn't really matter how complex the shooting task is, he just flows through it. And that wasn't the case with me. Like a drill, like a fairly simple drill or a stage, I could shoot that well. But when you had a lot of moving parts in the stage, I would get very mechanical.
Okay.
And like, for instance, it would be like you can think of you're sectioning up a stage, and like one stage, this last match that went really well is you were reloading into a position where you had to hit a spot fairly precisely because there were 3 targets that you were going to shoot. And if you were a little bit to the left or the right, either a barrel or a wall would obstruct one of those targets. Right. So you had to land at the right spot. And then after you shot those 3, there were 2 more targets off to your left. And they were partially, like they were around the barrel. So they're kind of tricky. And what you wanted to do was shoot those 2 targets while you're moving to the right. And then immediately transition, as you're moving to the right, you want it to land on a fault line. Like your right foot, boom, has got to be on the fault line. And then you turn, and then there are 2 no-shoot partials. And you kind of want to keep your momentum, shoot those as you're falling out of position, and then run forward.
Okay.
So there's a lot going on here. Like you're trying to, like these targets are out 15 yards, so you're trying to stack alphas on those at a good pace. And then you got to move, and then you got to transition. So that's the kind of thing that a couple of months ago, it would look very robotic if I shot it. Okay, and that's understood. Yeah. So for the last couple months, we got a bay at the range where we can leave up barrels and some wall sections, and that's like all I've been setting up is like fairly complicated. Like you got to hit a spot, you got to shoot these targets, and when you're done shooting, you got to be at some other spot, and making a lot of use. Like everybody's looking at, they look at their timer and they're like, okay, what was my draw time and what was the total time for the drill? And we started changing our focus on some of the transition times that were fairly deep into the drill. So you can imagine you have like a 14 shot drill or something like that. Sure. And you're like, okay, the money here is between targets, between like the 7th and the 8th shot, or between the 6th and the 7th shot, for instance. And like, that's what we're trying to work on. Like these other,
so like target splits, 3 to 4. Yeah.
Yeah. And where target 3 to 4 isn't just here to there where you're just looking and transitioning, but it's where you should be moving on target 3 so that you can transition immediately onto target 4.
Right.
And if you're not moving correctly on target 3, you're going to have to hunt for target 4.
Makes sense.
And that shows up immediately. Like that's a half second. Like as soon as you're hunting for a target, you're like half second plus.
Right.
So like giving ourselves some time for some walkthrough, like not dry fire, but like the kind of walkthrough that you would get at a match. Mm-hmm. And you're kind of like, okay, as I'm shooting, like I land here, this is my reference point on the ground. And then as I'm moving, you're thinking like cross step and then reach, or you're thinking cross step, reach. So you're figuring out like, what foot movement pattern am I going to do in order to land at this spot? And is this something that I can do just by remembering the footsteps, or do I need to actually look where I'm going? And
okay, that makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. So kind of what I'm finding on this is that if it's 2 or 3 steps, you don't need to look. Like with practice, you don't need to look. You can just remember like a cross step and a long reach, or a cross step and like a short reach. Just what do your feet need to do? And you're going to be there. Like once it starts getting a bunch more steps, it's like, I gotta look.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And
your eyes have to come off the target. Yeah.
Right. And so you're not just going your eyes target. It's like eyes are target, spot, target, for instance.
Right.
And so that's been absolutely paying off in matches, as doing that. Just having these precise movements that we got to get.
And so in practice, you're setting up where you've got to really pin a spot then. Right?
Yes.
So yeah. So you're practicing that eye movement, target, spot, target,
yes,
magwell, right? Or something like that. Yeah.
Yeah. And for the initial one, you're just setting up some barrels, you're setting up some walls where it's not just run to the corner of the wall, but it's like you're back from the fault line, like the barrels that are causing the problems are like 5 feet plus in front of the fault line.
Sure.
So there's not like a clear spot to put your foot, but you gotta, like, you're looking at something, you're having to pick out a spot on the fault line that you can't easily come into position just looking at the target.
Sure.
But you gotta, like, you're hauling ass, and you got a spot on the ground, and then you kind of look up from the spot on the ground as you're braking, you look up on the target, and you can make the fine corrections to your position off the target. But like initially you got to cue off of something on the fault line or whatnot.
Yeah. Like a nail or a thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You got nails, you got seams. There are all sorts of things. Like there's going to be something on the ground that you can do.
So question on how you found that though. Like, how did you identify that was a technique that you needed to work on? Was it just something in video that you discovered that say, hey, okay, I know I'm losing time here, or was it something? Okay.
Yeah, it was just looking at the video and it just looks awkward.
Okay.
And it's like when you look at the top guys, and there's just a flow as they move through a stage. Mm-hmm. You don't have the hesitation and the second guessing and and you see this a lot also when people are setting up in a port, is if they come into a port and let's say there are 3 targets they have to shoot in the port. They're moving their feet for every transition.
Right. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
And it's like, no. Like that's something I had pretty much squared away. That's been a mostly solved problem, is figuring out how do I want to stand when I'm at a port so that I can engage all the targets by, like, you just get low, you bend your knees, you can slide your hips side to side. And if your feet are in a decent or close enough, you can just shoot everything that way. You don't need to lift your feet. So then every time you slide your feet, that's like a half second. You're just throwing away.
Oh, sure. Well, yeah. And, the match directors here, they get real cute about they'll put a target. So you'll have a port and then they'll put a target right on the wall facing 90 or, facing 180 almost. Mm-hmm. So they'll always draw you into that window. So what I've found is really, it's like, okay, well, position myself so I can get everything else. And then I'll exit out. I have to dig in to get to that one target and then jump into something. But to your point, yes, find the ways to set yourself up where you move the least amount of times and get the most amount of targets. Yeah.
Sure. And you realize that you look at the array of targets, and in some cases you look at it and you're like, yeah, I can reasonably hit these without moving my feet. But if you do make a correction, I want to make one big correction. Mm-hmm. I don't want to make a lot of small corrections. It's like,
right. Yeah.
So for the situation you have, it's like, we're going to come in, set up, get low, engage our targets, and then we take a big step as we're leaving to engage that last one or that last set of targets, and then we're out of there.
Yeah. So cool.
And
well, awesome.
So there's that. Like that's been one area. Another area I've been hitting a lot is turning everything into bar hop.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah. So you take a drill and then you throw in a bar that you're stepping over or multiple fault lines that you're going to step over as you shoot this thing. And so, because there's not a lot of static, like particularly how stage design's going and with high cap being so prevalent, that there's not a lot of, if you're doing a lot of posting up and shooting, you're behind the curve.
You're probably doing it wrong.
You're pushing. There's just a lot more moving through a stage and continually shooting. Mm-hmm. And like just when you do set up, you want to set up and shoot as quickly as you can. And so doing something like distance change up, or not distance change up, like designated target. Or let's say you have a plate and then you have like 3 paper targets. Mm-hmm. So what I'm doing is you put a stick down, and then on the buzz, you like step across the stick, shoot the plate, and then you shoot one of the paper as you're stepping back across the stick, shoot the plate, shoot the next paper as you're stepping across the stick, shoot the plate, shoot the third paper as you're stepping across the stick, and then finish up on the plate.
Got it. So it's like designated target bar hop.
Yeah.
Almost. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that, it kind of gets your mind, like you talk about like designated target is you're working on your transitions and you're working on remembering target sequences. Because I mean, like the first time, like when I teach, if I have like some newer shooters and we're doing designated target, they'll get lost.
Sure.
And
it's
so
easy to, right?
It's very easy. Yeah. If you're not familiar with it, it's very easy to get lost shooting designated target. You're like, well, which ones have I shot? Which ones haven't I shot? So you learn how to do that. Like you shoot designated target, and then you just do random orders. Mm-hmm. So if it's like you have your steel, you have 3 paper, it's like, okay, we're going to do paper 1, 2, 3, and then we're going to do paper 2, 3, 1, and then 3, 1, 2. And you can have your friend call out, like your training partner, like what the order is going to be. And then it's like, you got kind of make ready, and then boom, you got to shoot that order. Mm-hmm. So that gets you used to remembering like target sequences. And with bar hop, it's teaching you to separate your upper and your lower body. Mm-hmm. And the traditional bar hop setup is 2 paper targets. So it's really not like, you just shoot the other one next. Yeah. There's not a lot but it's the difficulty in bar hop is that you're blending the shooting and the moving. So then when you combined designated target with bar hop, you're trying to process a complex sequence while you are doing all the footwork to move back and forth across the stick and doing it at the right time.
Yeah.
Because you'll have that, like people can shoot bar hop just fine, and then they can shoot distance change up. I'm sorry, they can shoot bar hop just fine. They can shoot designated target just fine. But when you try to do the two together, they're like, am I stepping on the plate or am I stepping on the open? Or like they'll step on the open and they'll step on the plate. And they're just, it's like the first time you watch somebody shoot designated target and they forget what to do, they'll do this combination of the two and then they'll forget, when am I supposed to step and when am I not supposed to step?
Right.
Because you make sure that the sequence is like you step on the draw and shoot the steel, and then you're shooting the paper as you step across the stick, and then you shoot the steel, shoot the paper as you step across the stick, shoot the steel. And you'll see them having the same hiccups on the footwork as they do with the transitions. And it took me a while before I started getting able to shoot this.
This is a complicated one.
Yeah. And that's like I got a new class that I'm working on. Kind of working on I kind of got my notes where I'm working on the details of what exactly we're doing. But it's really going to be focused on this kind of stuff. Is just how should you be drilling and how should you be approaching practice in order to carry over to match as well?
Yeah.
And like this is going to be a pretty heavy part of it. Like what we're talking about right now, it's just getting your brain used to processing all of that information. Like I got to be in a precise spot. I got to time together transitions and shooting with moving to particular spots.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's really practicing complicated stage, right? I mean, that's what you're really trying to get them to understand. It's not just, a vanilla stage. Most of the stages you'll see, okay, run to this spot, you shoot the things, go to the other spot, shoot the things,
Yeah,
but then,
they might as well have shooting boxes. It's basically shooting boxes, but we're going to do it with walls instead.
Exactly, yeah. And so, and when you get to a place where you start to see targets open up in different spots, well, that's where it's going to be. It's like, well, I will have already taken that target. So, it's like, okay, well, I'm going to take these two and this one over here. And then I'm actually going to step forward, and it's actually more efficient for me to take these two out of the 4 sequence and take maybe 2 more of those somewhere else. So, to be efficient in a stage, the most efficient plan may be also the most complicated plan, maybe. So, so this is practicing that for sure.
Yes. Yeah. And that's another, like when I'm figuring out a stage plan, I try to figure out what is the winning shooter going to do on this plan? Mm-hmm. Like what is irrespective of risk, what is the fastest way to do this?
Yeah.
Like if I couldn't miss, how would I shoot this thing?
Absolutely. Yeah.
And then you look at, okay, that's the fastest way to shoot it, like risk aside. And then you decide, well, how am I actually going to shoot it? Like, am I going to make any compromises? And then whatever compromises you're making, like that's what you need to train on. Or that's one of the things you need to train on. It's like, I don't feel comfortable doing it this at a match. So you have 2 choices. You either say, yeah, this is a local and I'm just going to go for it and see what happens. Or you say, I'm trying to do well at this local. Like I'm treating this local like a major match and I'm going to file this away for practice coming up in the next month.
Sure. And that's the more prudent way to do it. Now some people will, and I've been known to just, okay, well, this is how you're supposed to do it. I'm going to try it.
Yeah.
So, especially at the local level, but
I mean, matches I'll go into with the mindset that I'm going to try to win this, or I'll go in that I'm going to experiment today. Like I'm going to do at least one thing I don't feel comfortable with on every stage. And I'm going to be okay. Like if I get a penalty per stage, that's just fine.
Sure.
And then sometimes I go in with if I don't get a penalty on this stage, I'm going to be upset because I didn't push hard enough.
You didn't push hard enough. Yeah.
I didn't push hard enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and I think it changes when you're ramping up for a major, right? I mean, I think, I know a lot of guys around here, they use locals as practice, which, it's like, okay, well, if that's all the practice you get, I mean, it's not great, but it's better than nothing. But, I say to those folks that, okay, you can do that to a certain extent, but if you're a month away from a major, then you need to start taking those seriously. And then you need to figure out what you're doing wrong. Yeah. And, with video, and you and I are both very high proponents of video. and just figure out what's going on per stage, come up with 2 or 3 learnings per match and work on those and dry fire. At least if you can't get to the range, dry fire them and then go to the next match. And then, where you're trying to shoot it like a level 2 or a level whatever match it is. Right.
Yeah.
And that's kind of what I've been prophesying over here, with mixed results, but
Yeah, I mean, it's easy. You see people taking a very casual attitude towards local matches and just thinking that they can turn it on at a major.
Yes.
And it's like,
yes. That's a fallacy for most people.
Yeah. I mean, I know people who can do that, but they've been at this for a long time. I mean, I think just the disciplined mindset that it takes to shoot a major well is also something that needs to be practiced.
Right. Yeah.
That part, I mean, just the discipline to shoot your sights and to shoot your plan and to not get flustered when things go sideways. Like that's, I mean, everybody can do it to varying degrees. Like some people are more gifted in that area than others, but it's still something you gotta test yourself on and see, can I make this happen when I want to? Sure.
Yeah. No, I know. And that's the hardest part about it. At some point you get to a level where the mental game is, keeping your mind in check. It's not so much that you have to get in game mode or match mode or whatever, but just keeping your mind in check, just, hey, let's not go too crazy on this. Let's just do what we know how to do. Let's not try to, I'm not trying to learn something at the match. I'm trying to just execute at the match kind of thing.
Yeah.
And just being able to focus on even just executing at the match, just knowing what you know how to do is very difficult for people, particularly when what I find is the more that people want to do well at the match, the harder it is for them to just execute what they know how to do, So
yeah, because if that's the first time you're trying to shoot consistently, it's like, it's not gonna.
Yeah.
I mean, a very common thing that I'll do, I mean, what I recommend people do to work on that is, you'll set up a drill that's difficult at the range. And let's say it's one of the things I was working on was the bar hop thing, doing bar hop where I had a 3-yard burner target and then a pair of upper third no shoots at 25 yards.
Oh yeah. Geez. Yeah.
Yeah. And I was shooting this with an iron sighted pistol. And so it was going to be like you draw, burn the close targets. That's 2 rounds. You shoot the 2 far targets. That's 4, 6. And then you come off and you burn the close target, stepping across again. So it's 8 rounds total.
You were bar hopping were you moving on the 25s?
Oh, no. It's like at the buzz.
Oh my gosh, dude.
Yeah, no, it's at the buzz. You're stepping across and you're shooting the fast target.
Pow. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And then you transition onto the far targets, and that's 4 shots very carefully. And then you come off those, and then you shoot the close target, stepping back to the original position. Yeah.
Gotcha.
So, the thing was like, okay, I got to shoot this 3 times in a row clean. Like no misses, no makeup shots.
Right. With irons.
And I mean, that's hard. And like that was something I was working at for quite a few range trips before I could do it, like even semi-consistently. Because like on that close target, I was telling myself, you got to shoot 20 splits. And then on the far targets, you just got to have 2 on paper. Like I didn't care if it was Charlie Delta. I mean, honestly, iron sighted Glock, 25 yards. I'll take 2 hits. Like I don't care.
It's dicey. Yeah.
I mean, that's at the limit of what I can do. And yeah, so it took me a number, and just like getting that into your head of what does it take to make that kind of shot consistently? Because I mean, that's like we're doing 2, 4, 6, 8. So it's 12 shots on those far targets that I'm trying to get. Like 12. Like I got to do 12 in a row.
Yeah.
And that's hard. And just learning what it takes, and like Because for me, I was shooting like 0.8 splits on those, like 0.7, 8, 9 splits, depending on how much cleanup I needed when I transitioned onto them. And just the like mentally going from 20 splits and to like 0.7, 8 splits, like that's hard. That's really hard. And if you're not familiar with that, so you
get stuck in a cadence.
Yeah, you get stuck in a cadence. And like being able to shoot consistently at a match, you got to be able to master those cadence changes.
Sure.
And you just got to master you got to master shooting your sights, like just not shooting when you want to shoot, but shooting when the trigger is prepped, the sights are there, the grip is even.
Or shooting when, or not even like when you want to shoot. It's more like when you think you should be shooting. Because I know other folks, it's like, I need to be taking this faster. It's like, no. You can only go as fast as your sights tell you. Right.
Yeah.
Like, if your sights aren't there, there's no reason why you should be on that trigger yet. Right. So, yeah.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's how I like to drill, like for shooting consistently at matches, is running, like setting up something hard and then shooting it like 3 times in a row, 5 times in a row, whatever the case might be. Or it can be as simple as something like, okay, put a 20-yard steel out there and then at the buzz, just take 1 step and shoot it. And you got to do that 10 times in a row. And that's surprisingly hard.
It is. Yeah. I mean, being consistent, that's the hardest part about it, right? Being consistent at the speeds that you want to be consistent at. Yeah. Right. So.
And that's the thing you really learn when you try to do like a step, draw, shoot at a 20-yard plate. You learn really fast. Like I'm not going to like either I am going to get this or I'm going to run out of ammo. Yeah. And like you learn, like you're going to learn what you need to make that shot.
Yeah, absolutely. So
because it's 10 times in a row. Like there, it's like you can't, like 3 times in a row, you can still get lucky 3 times in a row. 10 times in a row, luck isn't going to work.
That's right. Yeah. No, you have to have the goods by then.
Yeah.
Right? But it's super important because even knowing that, like even setting up these difficult drills, it gives you also some confidence going into a match. It's like, okay, well, if the match director is going to put something like that drill into the match, then I'm okay. Yeah. If they put something harder, then I'm still okay because I've been practicing this hard thing and most of the field hasn't been practicing difficult stuff.
Yes.
They go and they practice their hoser. They'll put a target at 5 yards and they'll do 100 rounds worth of bill drills. And then they call it good. And it's like, no, yeah, there's more to life than bill drills.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Yeah.
So a question for you: for your students, are you doing the bar hop with designated target as a drill that you're doing with those?
I've started putting that in, and I put it in my core skills class, and it's not going to be there for long.
Okay.
I mean, that's the class that I'm targeting. I'm advertising that as like, if you're familiar, like if you know how to not shoot yourself, you should take this class.
Gotcha.
And it's something I'll put it in there if some of the people showing up like are active competitive shooters or are active, if they're experienced law enforcement shooters, I'll throw that in. And I'll just tell the other people, it's like, look, this is really hard. And like, if you don't want to do the stepping, just shoot the paper, just shoot the drill, like without taking any steps. And I'll try to dumb it down or make it simple for the people who just aren't there yet. But I think overall, having a bunch of drills that I wanted to put into that class that just weren't appropriate for a lot of the people who are showing up, that's what got me thinking on let's do a class for people who are shooting matches.
Separated out.
Yeah, have people who are shooting matches, people who have a training regimen, like who are going to the range on their own and training. That's like let's do something that's targeted towards them. And we won't do we're not going to be doing 100 rounds of doubles or anything like that. We're going to immediately jump in. We're not going to hit the fundamentals in isolation. Like everything's going to be in context.
Makes sense.
And we're going to start just loading up, just make the cognitive load higher and higher as we get into it.
Makes sense. So right now you're offering the fundamentals class, which I've seen you like on Instagram and Twitter and stuff like that. You have fundamentals, and then you're going to offer an advanced.
Yeah. I'm calling it Ben already had skills and drills, so I'm just calling it like skill development.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And I'm going to be getting, if all goes well, I'm teaching the core skills on Sunday, and I should have video of pretty much the whole thing.
Awesome.
Available for people to see.
Are you going to post it? Are you going to put it on Twitter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I got a buddy who's going to come out and video it for me. So,
awesome.
Yeah, so that'll be fun. So people can get see what they think. I figured it's working. Cool. I figured it's work. Like Ben and Mason are putting out whole classes. So yeah,
you need to be out there for sure.
Be out there.
I think so.
See what people think.
I think so. So then I guess the question that I have to ask you now that you're putting it out there, how do people get a hold of you? Where's what's the socials, the email and all that stuff? Where do you want to be out there?
My website is probably that's always going to be there.
Okay.
So it's yank.to, yank.to. And if they go to that has links to everything.
Perfect.
And then,
yank.to.
Yeah. Okay. And then I still with Instagram, I'm shadow banned and I've had a bunch of posts taken down. So I've just really backed off how much effort I'm putting in there. And then all the stuff that got banned off of Instagram, uploaded onto X, no problem. So I'm focusing more there.
Yeah, same. We have, so we started the podcast for the range, like I told you, and I started an Instagram account for it, just specifically for that. And within a week, they suspended the whole account. This, because it said the Brown Duke Gun Show, and I'm sure they hated
guns.
Gun
yeah.
Oh, I know.
Be still my heart. Yeah,
exactly. So that thing was gone, and then even in Facebook, it just. We're not getting a lot of traction and getting and the range is getting stuff suspended just for posting stuff for the range, and it's no, this is their business. It's not like they're telling you to go out and do something stupid. No, they make a business teaching people how to shoot in a safe manner. Yeah.
It was a while back that SIG got banned off of Instagram for posting. They were posting match announcements, one of the SIG official Instagram accounts.
It's nuts.
Nuts.
Yeah, I'm with you. Twitter is what we're focusing on. Spotify for the podcast and stuff like that. But I'm totally with you on the Twitter. So, and your Twitter is at what? At what?
Oh, it's ATL_Flaneur, FLANEUR. But it's linked on my website.
Okay, so it's all. If you go to yank.to, you can find everything.
Yeah, everything's on there.
Cool.
So I got a bunch of. I've been putting together a list of shooting resources. So recommended books. It has links to all of Ben and Joel's class dumps, Mason's class dumps, and then some social media stuff for people to check out. So that's just something I email everybody that takes one of my classes or that asks me about shooting. It's hey, here's some ways to get started. These are some books to buy, some videos to watch. And then
that's awesome.
Yeah, I have some class descriptions and schedules. I have some stuff on just observations with red dots. So if people are used to shooting irons and are looking to put a dot on their gun, just some things to watch out for, and just a lot of observations, seeing people, even people who shoot a red dot at an indoor range a lot. And then they come out, in some cases, one of my classes is the first time they've shot a red dot outside of an indoor range, on a lane.
Okay.
And it's a big experience. It's an eye-opening experience.
It's very different.
Yes, it's very different. The whole, just the extent to which the dot is demanding of index. You have to have a good index on the gun. And if you've only shot in an indoor range, you've probably only shot squared up to the target with the gun in front of you. And when people start shooting, they're not squared up to the target, they're in a torqued up firing position, all of a sudden they're presenting the gun and they don't see the dot.
Yeah. You're on a lean, for example.
Yeah, you're on a lean, or even coming into position. They're used to bringing the gun up from the draw, or they're used to just picking a lot of indoor ranges don't even let you draw. So you're picking the gun up off the table. And like the fact that you're not on the clock as you're doing that, people aren't realizing that they're fishing for the dot. And now all of a sudden, this is their first time where they're trying to acquire the dot on the clock, and they're like, "Wait, where is it?" And you just see them like holding the gun out.
They do
like
the wrist thing.
Yeah, like this rotating the gun around. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So there's some stuff on that. Yeah.
You know what's interesting? What we found. So I was a red dot shooter before I moved here, right?
Yeah.
6 years ago, and when I moved here, didn't have anywhere to practice, and there wasn't really a local match or a club for an hour and a half drive, right? So got lucky that I met up with the folks at Sentry Defense who wanted to start a club. They allow you to practice from draw, all of these things. They allow you to rapid fire, all of these things. So really picture perfect for setting up a USPSA club. What I've noticed over the years actually is that for me, it is more difficult to shoot red dot indoors than it is outdoors.
Really?
Yeah. And it shows up in classifier scores. So my classifier scores indoor are like almost predictably 10% lower than I shoot the same classifier outdoor.
So do you think that's particular to a dot, or just shooting indoors versus outdoors, and that it's harder to shoot indoors?
I don't know, because the one thing I can tell you is that it's very dark, like in comparison to being outside.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I mean? And I think that particularly for red dot, it makes you hone in on the dot more. So it's harder. It's harder to stay.
Yeah, it's harder to stay target focused.
To be consistent, just to be consistently target focused. And I think that whether it's that I get sloppy on the dot discipline, or maybe it's so much brighter outside that the dot doesn't pop so much. For whatever the reason, I've noticed, not just for me for sure, but for other shooters who shoot a red dot, going outside, once they're trained up, they're a USPSA, say they're like a C class or above, then it's like, okay, they're consistently better shooting outdoor because we get so used to shooting kind of in the dark,
Yeah.
So, but it is also very different shooting at all when your body's contorted in a weird position. So I think like if you shot red dot only indoor and never got out of the booth, then that's like, when you go outside, there's so many complicating factors. Like, oh my gosh, I can see everything except my dot, which I don't know where it is. So,
and that's something I tell people. You can work on that in dry fire.
Oh, certainly, yeah.
That's like building your index isn't something you need to shoot live ammo to do. Like you can do that in dry fire,
but it's a real
easily.
thing. It's a real thing, right? Because when I started shooting a dot, when I started USPSA, I was. Actually, I started IDP. I was shooting a Glock 34, and I had that for years and years and years. And it wasn't till later down the road that I started shooting a red dot, and I was already kind of trained up on shooting irons and fairly okay at it. But it took a good month of daily dry fire to get to where I could grip the pistol and present it, and the dot was there always, and that's somebody who would had reps, years worth of reps behind that thing. I mean, imagine, you don't have either you don't have great fundamentals to begin with, like you're a brand new shooter, or you've been shooting iron sights for your whole life, and now you put a red dot on the thing. Yeah, it takes a while to build that index. It's almost like starting from scratch. Yeah,
and what I suggest people do as they're working on that is when you present the gun with a dot and you don't see it, is to don't do anything, just maintain, keep the gun where it is and just feel what your wrists are like just feel the angle of your wrists and the tension in your hands, and then make the dot appear. And remember, how does that feel? How do your wrists feel? What's the angle in your wrists when you can't see the dot? And what is it when you can? And like, try to remember that feeling of like, how are your wrists set when you can see the dot, and make that a cue that you're going for as you present the gun.
Yeah.
So you're looking like, as you're bringing the gun up, you're trying to set your wrists that same way. And that's something that you can do before the gun is even up at eye level.
Yeah.
Does that make any sense?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah,
and it's not fast, but it's something that you get used to it, and then fairly quickly you just start seeing the dot. Like, it's one of those things that with practice, like, you don't have to do it anymore. It just becomes ingrained of what the set is, like what the angle is in your wrist in order for the dot to present.
Yeah, no, I think that the larger point of what you're talking about is really just paying attention to physical cues in general.
Yeah.
Like, say you get the perfect grip, you're out there and, okay, this is it. The dot's in the center. Everything feels great. It's like, okay, remember that. Like, what are your pressures? Like, how much pressure you have in your shooting hand versus your support hand?
Yeah.
What do your shoulders feel like? What do your elbows feel like? Break it all down and then recreate it. That gives people more of a framework to be able to repeat it than just yank the gun and do it again.
Yeah.
So, and I think that's,
Yeah. When you're shooting, if you're shooting, let's say you're shooting doubles and the rounds are just stacking up in the center of the target, like right where you're looking. Like, don't be in a rush to dismount the gun at the end. But just kind of like keep the gun there. Like, okay, this is tracking. The gun's tracking really well, and just try to understand how you're gripping it. That's making that happen. And just to be mindful of what's going right at the moment, so you can try to recreate it.
Yeah, agreed. Yeah, be just 100%. Be aware, right? Having an awareness of what your body's doing, super important.
Yep.
So, well, very cool, Andreas. We could go on for hours. I'm sure you have other stuff to do. So, Andreas Yankopolous, we have go find his stuff at yank.to. Reach out to him through those channels. Hey, thanks for being on this, man, and thanks for helping me test the live stream. And whenever you want to do it, let's do it, man. This is good.
You bet.